And of course, every time the light turns green, a tourist will cross the street. Welcome back. I'm Tedward. Welcome to the GMC Sierra EV. And welcome to Harvard Square. I wanted to take you on a city POV night drive through Cambridge and Boston. So I thought we'd start here in Harvard Square, which, this is Harvard University off to my left. So if you've been a tourist here, if you live around here, this should look mighty familiar. So what we're going to do is we're going to drive this slightly frustrating road, which is always jam-packed with pedestrians and traffic, and nobody adheres to any laws or rules, and see what's up. This used to be the Curious George store, and now it's a depressing Starbucks. That's a shame. I think part of this thing too is like looking around and seeing what things used to be, because I did used to live in this area for quite some time. But there's some really great little gems here, and you can never tell if people are trying to walk across the street or if they're just standing around waiting for an Uber. Best to assume they are crossing. And then there's a lot of mosquitoes, which is what we call the little Vespas doing all their food deliveries. Got to be careful of them because they don't adhere to anything. But what we'll do is we'll crawl through here. We'll make our way out into the city proper, into Boston. Up here on my left, this is like a little tour. This is Charlie's Kitchen. It's like basically oh no, they changed this. These both turn left now. Well, there's Charlie's Kitchen, the double cheeseburger king. And that's a great bar and music venue. It's one of the oldest in the city. Head toward the Charles River. The four-wheel steering doing us loads of good, which I love. It actually makes this large truck mighty maneuverable. I do not know what this is navigating toward because I haven't set anything, so that's a little confusing. Just kill that. There we go. And if you've ever come and visited here during the head of the Charles Regatta, this is the Charles River, and this is where the big race occurs. We're going to not stop in the middle of an intersection. There goes the mosquito. So we're crossing Memorial Drive right now. You've got Storrow Drive and you've got Memorial Drive. The Storrow Drive side is the Boston side of the Charles River, and Memorial Drive is the Cambridge side of the river. And when it's not freezing out here, it's actually pretty beautiful. Storrow Drive is notorious for getting storrowed, meaning there are low bridges, and every year people moving into their colleges take U-Hauls down this road. The same way you're not supposed to go down any of the certain roads in New York, a parkway, this has low bridges, and people get storrowed. They stuff their U-Hauls into the bridges, and it happens all the time. There's signs everywhere, but it still occurs, unfortunately. But here's one of them. It's only a 10-foot clearance. This GMC Sierra has an air ride suspension, but it's not particularly soft. It's not horribly stiff, but it is a pickup truck. And I think that sometimes maybe just sets expectations incorrectly because people expect oh, air ride, it's going to feel like a Bentley, and it just doesn't. The other thing is that we're on 24-inch wheels. 24-inch wheels means that you're not going to have massive sidewall on the tires. Now, they're still big, but it's not going to absorb as much as maybe you had hoped. Let's jump over here. Always very cautious in this truck when I'm making lane changes to the right, because I always feel like there's more truck than I expect. And I definitely like that the seat vibrates, because there's been a couple times where I think, oh, I'm well clear of that, and then my seat vibrates. I realize, oh wow, there's something still sitting next to me. So there's a bit of a learning curve, and I don't drive long trucks day to day. My GX460 is the length of a normal car, basically, but it certainly makes me think twice when I make moves in this thing. I've got my regen paddle on the steering wheel, and what I like about the higher end GM vehicles is that the regen paddle is variable, so it's spring loaded. I can pull it in certain direct, like I can pull it harder or softer depending on what I want out of it, which means I don't have to go to the brake pedal, and I don't often really like using the one pedal driving feature. So this regen paddle works really well for me. In the cheaper cars, that is a click. It just clicks on and off. And I wish they would just introduce that into everything. Like, I think the Equinox is just a click on and off, whereas in these more expensive vehicles, they let it be a little more variable. Now, you'll notice I just got a text message, but it's not showing up here because I don't have Apple CarPlay, which, a little bit frustrating if I'm honest. But I am going to jump off. I think let's jump off in Fenway first. Actually, no. We'll go through Kenmore Square after. We'll start out closer to the Prudential Center. Actually, no. We'll go Fenway, and then we'll do Newbury Street and Boylston and all that fun stuff. Look at that. Great cityscapes. Boston is becoming more and more beautiful, although they have definitely put up buildings that have blocked views, which is frustrating. Although, check this out, an Ineos Grenadier. Look at that. I'm hoping I'm not jinxing myself here, but navigating Boston really isn't that terrible. People give this such a terrible reputation. The drivers aren't great, but when you expect the drivers not to be great, it actually just makes driving kind of easy, because you know that someone's just going to do something a little stupid, so you just keep yourself on the defensive. It's when you're not expecting a place to have bad drivers, that's when you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Narrower roads, though, is a thing here. So you can't expect to be super comfortable driving big vehicles through here. Although I've seen so many delivery trucks, like big delivery trucks in semi-trucks drive through here, and I'm always so impressed. Oh my goodness, that was a little tight. I don't know that I would have done that. Don't do it. Don't do it, little leaf. I have no idea if I'm in a turn-only lane or what, but whatever. We're just going to ride it out. And that's the other thing, is if you do end up in like the wrong lane, it's like, people kind of expect you to suck here. We've actually got to go on a bit of a, I don't want to say rescue mission, but my friend needs a ride. But I'm going to take the long way so I can show you a little more of the city along the way. We're going to go to the north end. And this is where Boston just becomes kind of a pain in the butt of a city, because it is not a driver-friendly city, as you can see. We're entering the back bay, and there was a big event here for Red Bull today. They were doing this snowboarding event at City Hall Plaza, and I'm sure that has messed quite a few things up. But what I'm going to do is, instead of jumping over back across Storrow the way this is telling me with this enormous screen, we're actually going to keep going up. I think I'm just going to take you over to Charles Street, and we'll go through the public gardens, and I'll show you that. So right now, like I said, we're on Boylston Street. We're approaching where the Boston bombing occurred. And to my left, on the opposite side, is Newbury Street, which is kind of like the Rodeo Drive of Boston. That's where all the high-end shops are. That's where all some of the good little restaurants for brunch and stuff are. And yet people will just casually try to park on these roads, which like really are not. Look at this dude in a semi-truck. This is what I love about truck drivers. Like, that is the most boss level thing. I know so many people who live in the suburbs who are afraid to even do the drive that I'm doing right now in a car, and this dude's doing it in a semi-truck. Like, absolutely baller. That's the coolest thing ever. I would be horrified to drive our toter home through here. And these people decided that they're gonna cross like the second I get my green light, but that's the way she goes, bud. I'm not letting you in here. What are you doing? Monster people. And there's a mosquito coming up on the sidewalk that is, oh, on the bike lane too. That's the other thing, is they're trying to get these mopeds and all these like DoorDash people to stop using the sidewalks, and it's just not working, and it's super dangerous. But this is also, in the summertime, great car spotting spots. And, you know, I mean, for right now, I guess we have a Save the Stick Shift 4Runner, which is pretty darn cool, with very bald tires. And this guy's going to, like, kamikaze me the second this light turns green. It's a press car, so I'm just going to let him do it because I don't really want to get in that discussion with anybody from GM. I actually don't know what this guy's doing. He's just blocking traffic. This is crazy. I can't see if anyone's there or not. But again, people just double park in a roadway that like is insane to double park on. Okay, buddy, let's go. Up here, this is the Lenox Hotel. They have a phenomenal bourbon smash and a very cool bar. If you're ever looking for that last bar of the night, or maybe even the first bar of the night, the Lenox Hotel, baby, that's where to go. To my left is where the second Boston bombing explosion went off, and you can see the memorial that they have lit up there right now. And of course, every time the light turns green, a tourist will cross the street. That's the thing. This is a very touristy area. So like, you're not getting intelligent city dwellers crossing the road here. You're getting like children from wealthy towns in the suburbs that were dropped off by their parents, which is pretty much a recipe for disaster. Up on the left is the memorial for the first explosion of the Boston bombing, and then right after that, you'll see the Boston Marathon finish line painted on Boylston Street. Anyway, this is Copley Square. So there's the library and the Westin and all the fun things here. And here's like 10 people getting in a fight, trying to park in like, this is horrible. Why would you want to drive through here? I'm doing it because I'm making a video about it. But like, imagine this is just where you're driving. Like, oh, we're just going to make a quick buzz down and, oh my goodness, this is a nightmare. And it's all Priuses. So these are definitely Ubers. Can't tell what you're doing or why. Like, people just walking in the road, like they're gonna die. You know, you can't just stop on a 2-lane road and like these people are gonna walk through and they're gonna get hit by the other lane. Like, I have no idea why you're stopping there. This is bonkers, dude. So some rattles from the interior. It is, to be fair, 36 degrees, Boston roads, but it goes to show you that, like, yep, there's some rattles in the truck and that it's relatively stiff. Because the kind of rattles that we're getting are those, like those little sharp ones, those sharp, hard plastic type rattles. But one thing I will say about having an EV in the city is it really takes away a lot of the stress. I think having EVs in traffic and EVs in city traffic and stop and go stuff, it just makes things so much easier because you're not stressed about the engine. You're not stressed about any of the stuff that you would normally put a little bit of stock into in terms of like mechanical sympathy. And can I fit here? I think I can. This is like one of those weird scenarios where you've just got to kind of hope. But wait a minute, I think I have cameras. Let's see. Camera. Oh yeah, look at that. That's great. See, this has the best cameras in the game. I wish all cars had GM cameras. These guys really take some risks. Oh my goodness. All right, so right there is the public gardens, and Boston Common is up there, and we're gonna go between them because the Charles Street bisects them and goes toward Beacon Hill. So that's where they have like the little frog pond and the swan boats and stuff in the summer. They've got ice skating on the frog pond right now. Another 4Runner. Now, the Boston Common, it's the park, right? Like, this is our park. It has some sketchy areas, and it's not that big, but I will warn you, like, there are places in the park that you absolutely shouldn't be, especially during at night. And down there, if you go out through there, that's downtown crossing. And that's where, in the city, when any, like, random violent crime occurs, it's usually down there. But even if you're just walking along, you're gonna see your fair share of, like, tweakers and people like running around yelling and, you get what you bargain for there. But this is, especially because of the drug use and stuff around here, you definitely want to be cautious of people just running into the streets because it can happen. Down here is the garage, which is underneath the Common, and actually not terribly priced. So if you are coming into the city, that's the garage I recommend you go to. And we'll let this, well, you know what? We can drag race this Jag. Is that an I-Pace? What is that? Yeah. So up here is the Capitol building, made famous by the movie The Departed, honestly, where you have that classic scene of the rat crawling across the banister overlooking that building with the gilded roof, which we're going to come up on in a minute. And also Cheers, like a fake restaurant essentially as a tourist thing dedicated to the TV show back in the day, which is funny that still like has legs. The fact that like that's still a thing. I mean, that show hasn't been on in a long time. I guess we'll just use this lane since I don't want to smash up a bunch of cars on that side. And there you go. If you're coming here to mess around, this is not the spot to be revving your engines or doing anything stupid because there is a ton of security. Pretend that this is like going to the Capitol building in DC. There's a lot of security around here and they're not messing around. Make sure no one's gonna run out and cross. Great, good. I think it's always worth just going slow through a lot of those crosswalks just in case. All right, now we're heading over to the North End, which is the famously Italian part of town.
At the light, use the left 2 lanes to turn onto Sudbury Street.
This is Government Center, where that Red Bull X Games thing was, where they were snowboarding. You can see the Red Bull truck out there. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, we've done car shows out there. They've done Gold Rush starts there. And it's one of those famous brutalist buildings that everyone thinks is super ugly, but kind of now seems to like.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto Blackstone Street.
Yeah, again, obviously not the place to mess around if you're planning to be part of the riffraff.
Turn right. At the light, turn right onto Blackstone Street. Then take the first left onto Hanover Street.
This dude's got his Mike's Pastries box, which is like both the ultimate tourist trap and legitimate thing to eat. You know, it's rare that you find those two things. It's like if you're a New Yorker, like you wouldn't go to Times Square to get anything. But imagine there's like a tourist spot that is actually very, very good and emblematic of what the city has to offer. And that is, I think, what Mike's Pastry is. It like plays the game perfectly. It's a delicious place to go for a cannoli. Gives you the taste of Boston. It's a touristy thing to have, but it's also something that if I have someone visiting from anywhere else, I want to go there because I would like a cannoli. Don't walk into the street, please.
In a quarter mile, arrive at David Van Horn.
That's a funny thing to say. All right, here we are in the North End. This might just be the worst road in Boston to drive on. However, there's good car spotting, there's good people watching, and there's great restaurants. Like if you're looking for authentic Italian food in New England, the North End is basically the place to go. And look, you're going to find some Italian cars here too. There's a Urus, although it's a very German Italian car, but good enough.
Heyo.
I am in front of Mike's Pastry. I'm just kind of crawling along.
Okay. I'll be just up ahead of you on the right, I think.
Okay, cool. I will unlock my doors. I'm in the big GMC thing.
Okay.
Hang
Mike's is on your left.
Wait, say that. Mike's is on my left, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see this thing. The whole grill lights up?
Yeah, it's not subtle. There you are. All right. Let's see.
EV malarkey.
Hey. Hey, buddy. This thing's ridiculous, eh? We've reset a little bit. Now we're coming from Brighton into Alston. We're going through Packard's Corner right now, which is super bumpy. And actually, you kind of need a big truck to go through. But this is where sort of Com Ave and Brighton Ave meet up. We're coming up on Boston University. So if you ever toured or went to Boston University, this is where you would be. There's usually some good car spotting up here because there's some seriously wealthy BU students that end up in like a little supercar club. And honestly, the worst place to own a supercar. The street, it's hilarious because you'll see a lot of these like cars street parked out here when they're in classes and not parked under their super expensive, like outrageous skyscraper apartments. But through here, yeah, it's all potholes and train tracks on the Green Line. And there's often some accidents here with Green Line cars between each other that hit each other and literal cars that hit the Green Line trains, which always a fun Boston treat. That's the Agganis Arena where the BU sports teams play. And as we slowly approach Kenmore Square, we just hit red light after red light after red light. I wish there was like a cool way to make a Boston POV where we just cruise through, but we'd probably have to do it at 2 in the morning and it still wouldn't flow very well. Ahead on the left, you can see the famous Sit-Go sign, which you can see from all of the Red Sox games when you watch them on TV. Usually that's like a big thing. There's a lot of merchandise that has that on it. It's kind of funny when a brand like completely unrelated with anything. I mean, like Citgo isn't baseball, but because that sign is there, it's just like emblematic of the Red Sox. And right there is Kenmore Station. So when you go to a Red Sox game, you get off at Kenmore Station and walk up Brookline Ave. And it's wild because before the buses were hybrids and they just started quietly, they used to make a very distinct sound. The diesel engine started a very specific way. And all the birds at that Kenmore Station had a song that mimicked the buses starting. So if you were waiting for your bus, you would just consistently hear birds starting engines, essentially. It was the weirdest thing. So instead of heading straight into Back Bay, what we'll do is we'll go up toward Fenway Park. Very much the off season right now, but that's Fenway Park. Oh, this is the perfect view of the Citgo sign. Let's do a quick rundown. Lansdowne Street, just so you can see it. This is kind of an iconic spot because this is where like House of Blues is. You just gotta take your sweet time on these roads. Look at that! Cool Defender. Defender 90. And it's wild because you have Fenway Park, like the actual stadium, out over Lansdowne. So you kind of park under the bleachers, which is really neat. Coming up on House of Blues, which is where like all the major concerts occur here. Unless you're like Taylor Swift, then you get Gillette, or actually Fenway Park. Nice and tight here. Oh my goodness. Made that difficult, didn't they? Not a great place for you, little Honda. But this is what I mean. Like, look at these dudes who are complete legends driving semi-trucks down these roads. Like, can you imagine? That's the dream. If you're that good, like, you deserve all the credit in the world. Driving down Lansdowne Street in a Peterbilt with a 55-foot trailer is just legendary. But that's all right. Look at, now we're coming up over the Zakem Bridge. There's TD Garden. David has had some wine in the north end, so he thinks everything is just hilarious. But yeah, this is like the iconic Boston cityscape right here. All right, we're gonna head back to Somerville and Davis Square and wrap this up. So thank you guys so much for coming on a small drive with me through some traffic in Boston in the GMC Sierra EV Denali. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.